You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report. We think you've made the right choice.
Oh, yes, you have.
Today is December 7th, 2024. It is a Saturday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt. With me is Tipton Tribune sports editor, Michelle Garmon. Welcome, Michelle, for our second podcast of the night.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to be here. And, it is that time of the year. It's basketball season, so Friday nights are always super busy because, you always have some girls' games and then some boys' games. And so it makes for a busy night. And then the same thing on Saturdays. You get busy weekends.
And on our live podcasts, I just want to say that we don't go into full details like I do on the regular daily scoreboards. But on Monday, I will go through all the stats, all of the leaders, all of that in our weekly review. And like I said, that is every Monday. Every other day of the week, we have a scoreboard. Even if there are no games, we'll talk to somebody. Every day until the end of the year, we will have a scoreboard. Also, don't forget on Sunday, we will have Saturday results. We're about to preview Saturday's games after we give you Friday's scores and highlights. And we will have Grant Schaus of the Action Sports Network at the very end of the podcast to preview Saturday's Hamilton Southeastern game at Marion. All right, I'm going to go through the scores real fast, and then Michelle and I will talk about them. Pendleton Heights beat LaPel 71-64. Tri-Central won its first game of the year 45-40 over Cowan. Hamilton Heights won at Newcastle 74-66. Didn't expect that one. Shenandoah got by Eastbrook with a late run, 46-44. Kokomo, 80. Peru, 37. Ooh, impressive. Western beat rival Northwestern, 51-36. Mount Vernon, 61 at Delta, 40. That one was a shocker. This one isn't. Yorktown, 74. Burris, 35. Number 1, Wapahani, 65. Winchester, 46. And number 1, Liberty Christian, 85. Purdue Poly North from Indianapolis. That used to be Purdue Poly Broad Ripple. 24, 85-24. Ooh. Sheridan beat Clinton Prairie in a big Hoosier Heartland game, 59-58. Taylor, 47. Northfield, 34. And Monroe Central beat Daleville, 75-59. A couple other just outside of our local area that might be of interest. New Pal beat Eastern Hancock 81-54. Carroll beat Frontier 53-33. Rossville got by Tri-County 55-44. Southwood beat Wabash 46-28. Maconaquah 76. North Miami 51. Rochester 55. Winnemac 44. Carmel 63, Lawrence North 39, and Manchester 65, Wawasee 44. And I bring that up because Grant Schaus was at that game tonight and got to see Lou Lefebvre, one of our favorites.
Yes. Coach Lou. You got to watch Coach Lou and his rhinos. I don't know which one has the rhino T-shirt at the moment, or how many of them, but that's I think you've had to play for Coach Lefebvre to understand the rhino reference.
Oh, all you have to do is know him to know the rhino reference, because he will tell you.
And folks, it has nothing to do at all with politics.
That's right. Okay, well, we start at LaPel, where Pendleton Heights beat the host Bulldogs 71-44. Pendleton Heights is 1-3. They are at 3-0 Mount Vernon next Friday. That should be a good one.
It should.
LaPel 1-1. They are at 0-2 Rushville on Saturday. Earlier tonight, Michelle and I spoke with Rob Hunt of the Herald-Bulletin about Pendleton Heights' first win of the season.
Really cold. That's all I know.
It is really cold. All right, you ready?
I am ready.
All right, Michelle. Rob Hunt was at the Pendleton-LaPel game tonight. Pendleton 71, LaPel 64. Sounds like it was a really good one, Rob.
It really was. I mean, these are, the Pell, we expect big things out of at the 2A level. I think Pendleton's still kind of trying to sort out roles and everything. I mean, they have a very limited number of varsity minutes coming back, and they look pretty sharp today. They were executing offensively. They had 4 kids in double figures, and that brutal schedule that they play, might be sharpening up a little bit. They were very, very, very impressive tonight.
Yeah, it had to be really nice, kind of a relief for them to get that win.
Yeah, I think it means a lot. I mean, I talked about the Coach Buck. I mean, it would not be out of the question for them to play very well in every game and get to the Madison County tournament after the first of the year and be winless.
Right.
With the schedule that they play. And, this one could have gone another way. They were in trouble. They were down 10. LaPel just had a 4-point possession. They get a technical foul was called on one of the Pendleton players. Quinn Wilkins hits both free throws, and then Luke Jones scores, so they're up 10. And this is in the third quarter. All Pendleton Heights did was score the next 17 points.
Whoa.
And they actually, they outscored LaPel 35-18 from that point on. And Coach Buck kind of minimized the impact that moment had on his team. He thought maybe it might have motivated the kids a little bit. They just executed. I mean, they scored, I think, 9 straight possessions. So they were getting good shots and, going to the basket. They were hitting open threes. Didn't look like anything was forced. It was very impressive, especially the second half performance from Pendleton Heights.
Rob, I know, of course, Pendleton, if you took a look at their record going into this matchup, it was very deceiving because their
Sure.
3 losses had come against really good competition. So for them, I'm going to guess they felt really good about finally coming away with the win.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow or the next game, I'm sorry, that's not tomorrow, but their next game is against Mount Vernon, who's also undefeated right now. So basically, their first 5 opponents, big, huge win over Delta. Their first 5 opponents are all going to be undefeated when Pendleton Heights plays them. I know LaPel has a loss now, but, that's no joke. They play, I think, Bishop Chittard here in a little while, and Liberty Christian's coming up. I mean, there are no bunnies there before we get to the county tournament when they turn around and play LaPel again, by the way, to open the county tournament.
That's right. Who impressed you for Pendleton tonight?
A couple kids. One was Cooper Sims, who is a kid who one of those guys who didn't get a lot of playing time last year at the varsity level. He scored 24 tonight. Had 23 a couple games ago against Wapahani. So this kid can score, and he just hit some big threes. One in particular, coming down late, just over a minute to go. LaPel had cut the lead deficit to 4, and maybe a little momentum going their way, and he gets the ball and he's open. He drills a 3, and I turned to the Pendleton guys who do their stats were sitting next to me. I turned to them. I said, "Game over." Now there was still a minute and a half to go. I said, that just felt like a defining shot at that moment. He was very impressive. And like I said, they had 4 in double figures. One was Evan Mazingo, a senior, one of the guys they do have back from that varsity last year. Scored 11 points, got some shots on the interior, but defensively, he took Brody Judge pretty much out of the game for the most part. Now, Brody did get 9, which got him to 1,000 for his career, but it was a really tough 9 points, and he was really a non-factor most of the second half because he scored his last basket on the first possession of the third quarter. So really impressed by what Mazingo did. Offensively, he scored 11 points, but really his defense was vital.
So then Devin Craig had a nice performance. It's probably the reason that LaPel was able to make it hang with Pendleton Heights as long as they did.
Sure. Devin hit some big threes, got to the free throw line quite a bit. He's one of those football guys, so he's not afraid to go inside, mix it up with the big guys. He got in the lane a couple times. I think he finished with 19. Quinn Wilkins had a big game, and if you haven't seen Quinn play for LaPel, there's a kid, he just makes winning plays. Doesn't always show up in the scorebook, but tonight he did. I think he had 15 points and led all players with 5 assists. So those 2 guys were big. But Bodie Judge had a double-double for LaPel. Pendleton Heights really didn't have an answer for him inside. And I think there were a couple times maybe LaPel didn't go through him as much. And I think Coach Cherry made a comment about that afterwards. they really need Bodie Judge to touch the ball every time down the court. He makes them better.
How did Coach Cherry feel about the performance?
I think he was disappointed with on the defensive side, not being able to get stops when they needed them. He said they were not switching the way they wanted to. Some of the off the ball help wasn't where it needed to be. So they're ranked and they're a solid team. Don't get me wrong; they'll be a factor this year. But like pretty much every other coach and team in the state, I'm sure they are not a finished product. And I think that's one of the things he wants to see get a little better defensively. And they got a quick turnaround. They go to Rushville tomorrow, and he said there's some similarities between what they do and what Pendleton Heights does. So a quick chance to put into action what they learned tonight.
Yeah, he's gonna find out probably quite a bit about his team after tomorrow night with the back-to-back this week.
Sure. Yeah, that and also Wapahani coming up next week is another big one. So we'll have a pretty good handle on what LaPel's going to look like maybe over the next few weeks, and then that county tournament they get the rematch with Pendleton over at their place, and that'll be fun too.
When are they ever going to start kind of like seeding that? I just think it's terrible that you have Pendleton Heights and LaPel meeting like in the opening round, because I keep telling Greg, I don't know that I've ever been that excited about like a tournament, like a county tournament before that I am for the Madison County boys tournament, because I just think you're going to see some great games. I mean, with Anderson and Pendleton Heights and LaPel and
Mm-hmm.
Frankton. I mean, good coach teams, Liberty Christian, and good coach teams with some good players. And I just kind of wish it was evened out more to where those good teams really didn't meet until the semifinals and finals.
Yeah, we run into this a lot with the county tournaments here in Madison County, even baseball, softball. Sometimes you get some maybe the two teams you thought were the favorites played each other in the first round. I think the last couple of years, Pendleton Heights has played Anderson in the first round, and I don't know that we want that.
No, don't want that. I just mean,
yeah,
it would just be nice. I think if it was
for it to be seeded, it probably should be. Yeah,
it's really a problem this year, kind of on the girls' side, right? Because I guess the consensus top three teams are all in one half of the bracket. We got Pendleton Heights, LaPel, and Alexandria. Alexandria really looked good again tonight. On that one half of the bracket, and then the other half's kind of who's going to come out of there? I mean, I don't know. Elwood took one on the chin today. Can they get there? Can APA get to the final? I wouldn't surprise me, but Frankton has played pretty well at times, so that side of the bracket's a little iffy. So
and don't you think you'd have
a
bigger gate if you had a more exciting top tier championship game?
Yeah, I would think so. I think we'll get that on the boys' side, or at least if the favorites play out. I mean,
right.
Although Liberty did not play very well last night, they looked a little better tonight. But if it's Anderson versus Liberty Christian, and I cannot remember where the host school would be. Come to think of it, it might be at Anderson. If wherever it is, that place is going to be full. Because they just put over 2,000 people at Highland for a regular season game between those two. And I remember last year at the Eagles Nest, that place was packed, standing room only for that game. So, yeah, this year if you had your druthers, you'd probably like to see Pendleton Heights and Alexandria, I guess, on the opposite sides of the bracket. But the way things are looking right now, that looks to be a semifinal game. And then I worry about what the final might look like. The championship game, because either one of those teams would be heavy favorites over whoever they play in the final.
Michelle, Tri-Central picked up its first win of the season, 45-40 at Cowan. Tri-Central's 1-1, and they go to Eastern next Friday for their conference opener. Cowan is 0-3 and hosts Shenandoah on Saturday to go 0-4.
Yeah. That's a good win for Tri-Central, especially as you'll hear when we play the interview with Coach Cam Hindman. Tri-Central was still without senior Logan Yance. They should have him back next Friday. And they had an illness going through their team this week, and I don't think anybody missed the game tonight, but from what it sounded like, I'm not sure a lot of them were at 100%.
And you and I also spoke with Tri-Central head coach Cam Hindman following the win. By the way, I want to say this real fast. Weird Friday night in our area. The four teams in north of Lapel in Madison County, none of them played tonight. Crazy. They all play on Saturday. As I mentioned, here is Tri-Central head coach Cam Hindman after the Trojans' first win of the year. Coach Hindman, welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Always great to get your first win of the season, isn't it?
Heck yeah, it is. Yeah, it's good to get the first win, and then tonight it was really good to get the win on the road in a little bit of some self-imposed difficulty, but nonetheless, it was good to get a win on the road while making ourselves better at the same time.
Well, yeah, and the fact that it was a close game and tightly contested, that has to make it even feel even better since on the road. And so now that your kids know that they can go and they can handle a road environment and pull out a close win, especially because of losing, two or three of your five starters last year.
Yeah, that's very true. Um, and so far this season is shaping up very similar to what we were last year at this time, because we had a couple of we had Cowan at home last year, and then we went on the road to Frontier, and that game went very similar to how it did tonight. And we kind of learned the same things last year as we did tonight. We got a lot of really good shots tonight in the first half. We just could not get anything to fall. Um, I think we probably missed. I have to go back and look, but we missed at least 20 layups. Um, and if not point blank layups, they were in the paint. So we had 50% of those, and it's an entirely different ball game. So the positive is we're getting the shots that we needed tonight. They just didn't fall. The negative is they weren't falling. We've got to figure out how to remedy that. But at the same time, there was never a sense of panic that I felt. I think the boys handled themselves really well. We've got several kids that were sick tonight and not feeling good at all. So when you put all that together, I was really proud of how we kept our poise and kept chipping away at the lead in the third quarter. And then once we established that lead, we just did a really nice job of handling the ball and cutting back on turnovers and keeping the lead. And then down the stretch, started to get a little bit dicey. They went to press us, and we made really good, smart decisions with the basketball. And I thought overall, and I told the boys after the game that I thought we grew as a team and grew as basketball players tonight, which, to get a win and be able to say that, I think is a good thing.
It is. Can you tell us who kind of led you guys tonight? Scoring, rebounds, maybe assists?
Yeah, so Jay Jankowiak led us with a double-double. He had 16 points and 14 rebounds, and
Nice.
Jay is one of them that I sent him home from practice earlier this week because he was sick, and he's one of those that does not want to be off the floor. If he's going to play, he's going to play, and he didn't want to come off the floor tonight, and he felt horrible. I was so proud of the effort he put in. I think without his strong performance in that second half, I don't think we get this win. So I'm going to set this W directly on Jay's shoulders. I think he earned it, and I think he kind of put us all on his back and got it done. Drake Ramsier had a great game for him, especially after his start at Tipton. He had 16 points on 4 of 9 shooting from 3 for 44%. So that was huge for Drake's psyche, and I think he feels a lot better about life today than he did after the Tipton game. And he's not shot well in practice, and so this game was really good for him to get his feet back wet again. He also had 5 assists. And then Logan Sargent did a really good job on the floor for us tonight. He had 5 assists also, and Logan is quickly learning this level of basketball. when he's kind of been thrown into a really tough position as a point guard and coming straight from the JV last year. So he was exponentially better tonight than he was Tuesday, and I think we're going to see that game after game from Logan.
How did Fowler do tonight? I mean, because I know he looked really good against Tipton.
Yeah, he had a rough first half. He he kind of banged his knee up earlier this week and was hobbling around most of the week on it, and then he wasn't his usual fast athletic self tonight. He ended up with 7, and I'm looking at his rebounds. He didn't have any rebounds, but he had 7 points, and he made some nice drives. He was 3 or 4 from the foul line, so he shot his free throws well. So not quite what he was able to do at Tipton, but he still was a huge contributor for us.
And did you have Logan Yance back tonight?
We did not. So Logan, he's got 3 more practices, and then we'll have him back at not Tipton, Eastern.
Okay.
So he's chomping at the bit. Also, he's ready to get going. So it's been tough for him to sit on the sidelines and watch. So he's going to be ready to get in and mix things up. I think right away with the Eastern game.
Okay, and that's who you have. It's a girls boys doubleheader next Friday, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and then do you play on next Saturday too? I'm trying to remember.
Next Saturday
Is that Madison Grant?
it's Madison. Is that Madison Grant or Alec? I think it's Alexandria.
Okay, and the Madison Grant would be the weekend after.
Yeah. There'll be Madison
Okay.
Grant and Clinton Central the next weekend.
Okay, so now you get to start the back to back, the double weekend. So getting Logan Yance back will be beneficial.
Oh, absolutely. So and not having a double this weekend, I think is really going to help us. We can get a little bit of extra rest, and then we'll get back at it on Monday. But yeah, you're right. It's the part of the season now where it's doubles almost every weekend, and it becomes survival of the fittest because everybody else is playing the same type of schedule.
Yeah, well, Coach, thank you for your time and calling in and telling us about the game, and congratulations on the win. And good luck next weekend. I'm sure I might see you one of the 2 games. I have not really. I go week to week on my schedule. I just sometimes even day to day.
Yeah, you guys have a lot to cover, and to that point, we really appreciate what you guys are doing. It's a great thing to be able to talk about our kids and our team, and we really appreciate what you guys are doing for everybody.
Well,
We love sharing your team with our listeners. So.
we do. We appreciate you too in doing that. It's as Coach Hawkins said the other day, it's really sad, but it's harder and harder for papers to continue. And you lose your local paper. You a lot of times, like in our case, we're down to a weekly. Um, when you get shorthanded, they make cutbacks to staff and everything. And as it goes, it's nice to have other venues and ways to promote the kids. And I think Greg starting this podcast have been really beneficial for the area.
I agree, and then the timing was really good. And we were talking about it on the bus ride home tonight. That the radio station here in Kokomo used to do the coaches show in the mornings on Saturdays, and they're not doing that anymore. So we feel really fortunate that you guys are doing what you're doing for us to kind of fill that void.
We'd love to do a coaches show too. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, we
Hey,
have talked about that. We think it would be kind of fun to do that. Well, it's something we're going to have to try to work on and plan, and probably send out feelers to find out what works best for the coaches.
I think you will have no problem getting takers for that. Because I know all the guys that I would talk to on Saturday mornings. Everybody really enjoyed that, and it was therapeutic for all of us to go in and realize that the problems that we're having and seeing are the same problems that everybody else is having and seeing, and it was kind of good for everybody. So there's no doubt in my mind you would get people that would take you up on that.
All right, Michelle. Big win for Hamilton Heights tonight, 74-66 at Newcastle.
Yeah, that's a huge win for the Huskies. I it's going to be a little bit of a different team this year. I haven't had a chance to see him play yet, but Chad does a pretty good job there. there's a little part of me wondering, just because of the score differential, if possibly Newcastle was looking ahead to Saturday night's game with Anderson, because that's although Newcastle's not a part of the North Central Conference anymore, those are old rivals, and
Troy Lewis versus Steve Alford.
Yeah, and and we've talked about this with young kids. I'm sure the coaches had a great game plan in store for Hamilton Heights, but you can't control who your kids focus on. And so it's going to be interesting. I think we'll learn a lot about both teams with their next games, especially about Newcastle with how they play against Anderson on Saturday.
Well, and Hamilton Heights host 3-0 Garmon on Saturday.
Yes.
They are ranked 4th in Class 3A, so they will get another test. We'll know more after Saturday night's game about Hamilton Heights. Sorry, no details. Like I said, Monday we will have some details on that one. Shenandoah beat Eastbrook 46-44. Eastbrook led 44-39 before Shenandoah scored the last 9 points of the game, led by junior Garrett Hallman. He scored 14 points and scored 5 points during the 9-0 run to end the game. Eastbrook is now 0-2 and hosts Elwood on Saturday. Shenandoah is 3-0.
Yeah, Shenandoah always has a nice basketball.
Proud tradition.
Yes, a nice basketball team over there. And they always play a good schedule. It's so there's never any shame in losing to Shenandoah.
Kokomo beat Peru 80-37. Kokomo had 4 players in double figures, led by 18 points from Zion Bellamy and 17 from DJ Nash. Those two were 16 for 24 from the field combined. Nash also had 12 rebounds. The Wildcats shot 57% from the field and held Peru to 22% and forced 16 turnovers in the win.
Dean Hockney said DJ Nash he's just a freshman, folks, believes he's going to be a special player. And if Dean says that, then it probably is true, because Dean has covered and seen a lot of sports in his time and a lot of good athletes. He currently is the SID for Kokomo High School. And, I think Coach Peckinpah and the Cats want to send a message to the state that, yes, we loved Floyd and he was outstanding, and Carson Rogers, right? Carson did a great job. It was great to have those forwards last year and everything, but guess what? We have some other players too, and we're still good.
Yes, they are. And well coached.
And very well coached, yes.
Kokomo is 2-0. They go to Dwenger on Saturday for Dwenger's season opener. I think they just schedule starting in the middle of December, assuming that their football team is going to be good at Dwenger. And Peru is 1-2. Western won 51-36 at Northwestern. Christian Bangs of Western scored a team-high 10 points. He hit 3 threes in the second quarter, and that's when Western pulled away. Cooper Binion also scored 10 points for Northwestern. They were the team's leading scorers.
Yes, that's a big rivalry. It used to be a conference rivalry. Of course, it's not now, since Northwestern's in their first year in the Three Rivers Conference. And I don't mean with Northwestern and Western Conference rivalry just the Hoosier Conference. They were members of the Mid-Indiana Conference
But they're rivals going back to their forming.
Yes. And, Jim Gishwas does a great job with Northwestern. Western's got some talented players, and they have a good young coach in Cam Bennington. So it's really nice to see him do well. Of course, I know Cam. I know Jim too, but I always find it's fun when there's been players that you've covered and they go into coaching and they get their, this is his second varsity head coaching job. His first was at Winnemac, and then when Western's opened, he took it, and it's just really wonderful to see him being successful.
Western host Frankfort on Saturday. Northwestern is off till next Friday when it hosts another rival in Taylor. Michelle I was stunned by Mount Vernon's 21-point win at Delta, 61-40. They must be really good. Delta is now 1-1 and goes to and hosts Centerville on Saturday. Mount Vernon goes to Anderson on Tuesday. They are 3-0, of course 1-0 in the conference. Don't have any details on that one, but that final score just really surprised me.
Yeah, it surprises me too. But Mount Vernon, I think I was reading something somewhere, and they were talking about the Hoosier Heritage Conference, and they were talking about and I think we touched on it too, about Mount Vernon and Greenfield Central, New Powell, Delta, and I think Pendleton, and I think Yorktown's improved. That I think they're a program that just keeps getting better every year. They haven't quite reached that consistent upper echelon yet, but they have consistently the last 2 or 3 years beaten or played spoilers in that conference, and I think they're starting to make their mark. And of course, Tipton will see Delta. They play Delta at the Muncie Field House on next Saturday, December 14th. Yeah, it should be an interesting game. Get to see Delta up close to see what it could just be a night where Delta couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and
we know
Mount
they're
Vernon
talented.
shot well.
We know they're talented. Speaking of Yorktown, they beat Burris 74-35. They are 3-0 all 3 games at home. They host Delta next Friday for their 4th straight game at home. In fact, they only have 1 true road game in all of 2024. Crazy.
Wow.
Burris is 0-2 and hosts number 1 Liberty Christian on Tuesday. They will be 0-3. Number 1 Wapahani beat Winchester 65-46. Camden Bell 29 points, 5 rebounds. 3 others on their team had 9 points.
And Camden Bell's the one, when we were talking the other day, and I said I couldn't
I
remember the kid who came out of nowhere. Tipton's coaches were like, this kid came out of nowhere, and he was the difference maker. He won that, helped Wapahani beat Tipton in that regional, and he's really good, folks.
Wapahani is 3-0, goes to Lapel next Friday. That's going to be a good one. Winchester's 1-2. Number 1 Liberty Christian, they're 1 in Class A. Wapahani in 2A. 85 Purdue Poly North 24. On the podcast in the preview, it said that Liberty Christian was favored by 38. We don't really consider the Sagarin that important this early in the year. But I said I think they're going to be able to name their score, and they did. They are now 2-2 and at Burris on Tuesday. Purdue Poly North, which, by the way, I think I said earlier, was Purdue Broad Ripple last year. They are 0-3.
Yeah, it sounds like Liberty Christian got a wake-up call with their loss to Shortridge.
Kendrick Martin, 21 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals for the Lions, just a sophomore. Sheridan beat Clinton Prairie 59-58 in a big Hoosier Heartland game. Trey Page, 18 points to lead Sheridan. He was 6 for 10 from the field. Senior Damon Winston, who's had a great start to the season, 14 points and 10 rebounds. Devin Hamilton, 14 points and 5 assists. And senior Caleb Wright had 11 points and set a new career steals record at Sheridan with 125. Sheridan's now 2-1, 1-0 in the conference, and are at Faith Christian on Monday.
Yeah, that'll be a good road test for Sheridan.
I think that's a good Sheridan team.
It is a good Sheridan team. They got some young players, talented players, and Sheridan, for years it was like you didn't want to be the basketball coach at Sheridan because
it's such an afterthought.
Because football was the big thing, and the Blackhawks were always advancing at least to the regional, the semi-state. So your basketball season always got started
playing from
late.
behind all year.
Yes, and but now Sheridan is actually the last few years have started to have some players that are basketball players first instead of football players first, and that makes a difference.
Taylor is 3-0 for the second time in the last 15 years after a 47-34 win over 0-2 Northfield. Taylor goes to Northwestern next Friday. That's a good Taylor team too.
It is a good. It is a very good
still.
Taylor. It's still young. They have some, athletes.
Yeah, I got to see them this summer at an event at Taylor, and they were impressive.
Yes, it's who Tipton beat in the sectional championship last year. and they have a lot of those kids back. They're very athletic. The thing with Taylor is, um, do they shoot well? Because that's kind of where they've struggled. I think they've had talent the last years. They've struggled consistently knocking down shots, especially from the perimeter. And now when Bobby Wannell came and he brought his son with him, who was a good 3-point shooter, he could knock them down. But he was the only kid that you really had to worry about and extend on out there. Coach Wannell has really done a nice job in trying to get that better. I'm also sure that those young kids, because some of those young kids that are good on the basketball court were good on the football field. And I think that success, I'm sure it's maybe helped them bring
Same
a little,
kids.
Yes, confidence level to basketball now more, and they feel more comfortable, more confident early, and that's always a good thing.
All right, to Saturday. The Saturday Central Indiana Sports Report game of the week was the game of the weekend. Michelle, you have 6 teams that you consider to be your home team, right?
Yes.
5 of them didn't play on Friday, and 2 of them play each other on Saturday. 1-1 Frankton goes to 1-0 Tipton for what should be an interesting one. I think we have some questions about both teams, and we'll get some answers.
Yes, we have questions about both teams. We'll get some answers. But know this, you're going to, tomorrow night, if you decide to go out to the Inferno, which I would suggest it. I also believe if you go to the Tipton Athletics channel on YouTube, you can see that game live stream. They will usually live stream the JV games too. They just don't usually talk during the JV game. So you can kind of see the JV game, but then the varsity game, Grayson Weddle does a wonderful job, and he provides some play-by-play. He may have somebody up there with him doing color. If not, he can do both. And like I said, Grayson does a wonderful job at it. So you can watch it if you can't be there. But
Great.
You're going to see 2 of the best point guards in this area. In Grady 6'6" senior Grady Carpenter of Tipton, and 6'2" Joey Wright, senior Joey Wright of Frankton. And you're talking about 2 kids that run their team and get it done on both ends of the floor, offensively, defensively. I don't really expect either one I don't expect them to guard each other unless it happens to be a team's playing in the zone or they're trapping, or a switch. I'll be very surprised if Brady Carmack, when Frankton's a man-to-man, is not assigned to Grady just for the size purpose. Because Carmack has an inch or 2 on right. And I would expect Grady, because he is so good, one of Tipton's better rebounders, to have one of the taller guys himself. I would expect Sam Quigley to guard Joey Wright, and by the same thing, I could see Joey Wright guarding either Sam Quigley or Peyton Aller.
1-2 Elwood is at 0-2 Eastbrook. Eastbrook's 2 wins have both been really close ones. In fact, they led most of the game tonight and lost to Shenandoah. CIC opener for both teams.
Yeah. It's always nice to get that first conference win. And what's really weird is I think it's weird to have your first conference game being on the road, or not on the road, but being on a Saturday.
Yes.
Except when you are the CIC, because they tend to do the nice thing kind of throughout the month of December. The girls will play on Friday, the boys on Saturday. The following week, the boys will play on Friday. The girls will play on Saturday unless they happen to have a conference girls-boys doubleheader. Which we
love.
Yes.
For coverage purposes, I mean.
For us, for the podcast.
Yes.
It's not, you don't necessarily love it as much when you're a writer, because you can't always, it seems like the girls kind of lose out sometimes.
Yeah.
Now,
not for us.
Yeah, not for us. For podcasting, we love it because it's easier to keep track of.
0-2 Alexandria is at 0-1 Eastern. By the way, I forgot to mention, all of these games are at 7:30, every single one of them. And 1-0 Madison Grant is at 0-2 Clinton Central. Thoughts on either of those games?
Um, I think Madison Grant will go pick up a win. I like I think Elliott can get Eastern. Eastern's it's a tough place to play though. I mean, if
Two very similar teams.
they're very similar teams, I just think Eastern's gym sometimes can be a tough place to play. Even when Tipton's had really good teams, I think one year Eastern upset them there, and then I think there's been a couple of other years that it's been really close. Sometimes the games get, I want to say it, kind of
Ugly?
ugly. Yes.
Yes, I know what you mean.
There are a few venues where girls and boys where you go and games can get ugly, and I don't.
When I played basketball, it was at Hamilton Heights. Back then, that place was so dark, and it affected you, and never played well at Hamilton Heights.
Madison Grant used to be that way too. Now their gym is more well lit. In fact, a lot of these schools that have redone their floors and their bleachers, they've also redone the lighting in the gyms, and they're not so dark, and it makes it really nice. And it's fantastic for photographers. When you're shooting, action shots, it's, you might think it's kind of classy to put a spotlight on like Tipton used to. Tipton used to just leave the lights on over the court and turn off the balcony lights on each side, on each side. Well, it was kind of nice for spotlights, but man, it makes it tough to shoot photos in there.
All right, I'm going to go through the rest of the games. Stop me if you have a thought, Michelle. 0-3 Blue River is at 1-1 Blackford. Should be a pretty easy win for Blackford. 2-1 Oak Hill is at 1-1 Norwell. It's been interesting for Oak Hill because they've been pretty impressive in 2 games, and then they lost by 40 to Manchester in the other one. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at Norwell.
It will. Great. That should be a great game.
Yes, it should. 0-2 Frankfort is at 2-1 Western. Again, Western coming off a really nice win on Friday.
And we'll be 3-1 when they turn around and play the Blue Devils next Friday.
That's right. 3-0 Guerin at 2-1 Hamilton Heights, which I would have said coming into tonight, I would have given Guerin a huge advantage, but now I'm not so sure.
Yeah, you don't know. The only thing is, Guerin does have that young man by the name of Bryson Cardinal who seems to have a pretty good game.
Yeah, pretty sure Guerin is going to win that game, but
I'm
less certain as I was last night.
Well, and I think I'm more certain maybe it'll be closer than it was last night, unless Hamilton Heights, the young kids, got the win on the road at Newcastle and forget to totally focus on the next one.
I think they'll be focused on Guerin. All right, 2-1 Centerville is at 1-1 Delta, and Centerville is one of the stories of the state. They were winless 2 years ago, and now they're pretty good. Newcastle is 1-2 at 2-0 Anderson. Another good test for Anderson.
Yes, and we'll know. I think we'll know more about Newcastle. Are they just not as good as they've been in the past?
Which may say something about Marion as well, and we'll talk about them coming up.
Or were they just caught looking ahead? And when I say that, I expect Anderson to win this game, but how the point differential and how, that is, I think will tell us about a little bit more about Newcastle.
1-1 Lapel is at 0-2 Rushville. We hope to talk to Coach Cherry tomorrow night after that one. 2-0 Westdale has a really nice team. Is at 0-2 Eastern Hancock. 3-0 Shenandoah at 0-3 Cowan, which we mentioned. 2-0 Kokomo against Dwenger, which has not played yet. 3-0 Anderson Prep goes to 0-2 Central Catholic. They were 2-0 for the first time ever, 3-0 for the first time ever, and are about to be 4-0 for the first time ever, Michelle.
Well, maybe. Central Catholic?
No, not Central Catholic. Central Christian in
Okay. I'm sorry. When you said Central Catholic,
No,
I was like,
no.
I wouldn't guarantee that's 4-0
Central
for APA.
Christian. I may have said Central Catholic because I'm used to it, but Central Christian.
Okay.
They will be 4-0 after this game.
All right.
And then, like we said, Grant Schaus joined us a little earlier. He's going to be calling 0-2 Hamilton Southeastern at 2-0 Marion. That should be a really good one that answers some questions as well. 0-2 is not. Hamilton Southeastern is better than a typical 0-2 team. They're pretty good. Like we said with Grant here, though, both teams have some questions that they need answered, and so that should be an interesting one.
Yes, it should be an interesting one. Should be a good game. at a great venue. I like some of these
My
gyms.
all-time favorite is the Marion Gym. I've been to hundreds of them and a lot of great ones. Maybe it's because of the memories, but I just love that Marion Gym. And I used to those crowds. It was so great in that gym. Every time we went to that sectional, I loved that place.
I will say this. Perhaps my favorite gym, and it really had nothing to do with it, but it was just the pregame performance. It's just no longer in existence. They don't have it anymore. It was the Wigwam.
Oh,
I
amazing.
love going to the Wigwam.
Also an amazing place.
And-
well, let's talk about this. Some of the best. The Stardome in South Adams is amazing.
Yeah, how about the Case Arena in Frankfurt? That is,
Frankfurt.
everybody calls that Mini Mackey
That's
because
right,
it's the,
Very
it's
cool.
a great. You don't have a bad seat in that place. It's the round, and yes, it's very cool.
Jasper, by the way, had a very cool old arena, and then they just built a very new cool arena. So Jeffersonville is amazing. New Albany's is fantastic. A lot of them around the state that just kind of stand out to you.
Yeah, Tipton went there. I didn't go because it was so far last year, but Tipton went to the hangar up at Adams Central and talked about
Another
that
one.
as a really cool gym. Yeah, there have been some. You got the Berry Bowl in Logansport. That's
Can't
it's
forget
really
that
neat.
one.
Nope, you can't forget that one. You can't forget Memorial
Muncie
Gym,
Central.
Kokomo, and the Fieldhouse, which is where you and I will be next Saturday. The Fieldhouse is just I think you can. Here's the thing. I think you have venues like that, and that's why I hated to see the Wigwam not
Yes.
being in use anymore, because when you stepped in, if you were a basketball fan, even like if maybe you hadn't been there personally but seen some games played there on TV, or you could envision it, some of the great teams in that gym. In my head I could see certain players that had come before, and just even then, and like I said, I just hate it that some of these venues are no longer in existence. And, folks, part of it is we always forget just how costly it is to maintain facilities.
By the way, I know you probably aren't familiar with the ones down south, but Lagodi is amazing. Washington is fantastic.
The Hatchet House.
The Hatchet
I've always
House.
wanted to go in and see a game at the Hatchet House.
Southridge's gym it's not one of the older ones, but very cool. So
I liked Seymour.
Seymour's
when I used to
very
go
nice.
to go watch the girls' semi, I stayed at Seymour. I like that.
Southport is
Yes, I have been
fantastic.
at Southport. That is fantastic.
Yeah, Indiana, if you love high school gyms, that's the place for you.
Newcastle is just because of the size
Still
of it.
very cool arena.
Yes. And I think
not
Elkhart's
quite
got
the
a great
same.
one up there.
Yeah, I don't think Newcastle to me is quite the same as the others because
No.
it's just kind of an arena.
Yes.
It doesn't have as much character as the others, but it's
Right.
still a very cool place.
And Richmond's gym is pretty neat
Yeah,
itself.
the North Central Conference.
Yes.
You're just not going to do better than that.
Yeah, because then you got Lafayette Jeff, and you just got some great, like you said, great venues. I have
And
not.
I can't wait to go to Muncie Central next week. It's been 40 years since I've been in that gym.
Oh, there you go. Carmel, I haven't been. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've been in the new gym, but I always thought their old gym was pretty cool too.
All right, Michelle. Thank you so much. As always, it's been a lot of fun.
It has. It's that time of year.
I
It
love
is great.
football, but basketball is just. I could go to 4 games in a day with no problem with basketball and never be bored. Well, that's not true. There are some games that can get boring. I'm not saying that that's not the case. There are a lot of bad high school basketball games, as we know.
Yes.
But when they are good, there is nothing better. I'll take it over college basketball. I'll take it over the NBA any day. A good Indiana high school basketball
Yeah,
game.
part of the reason because I just enjoy high school sports. I enjoy high school football, the basketball and softball, even
Love it, yeah.
baseball. I
Track.
just like high school. Yes, track and field. I just really like it. And but I think one of the reasons basketball is because, it's constant action. The games go by faster, and no offense, I mean, great football games are nice, but sometimes
Yep.
those things can drag out long. And when you have bad weather,
Yes.
it does not make it fun to be out in
No.
the elements to cover.
And that's about half the games.
Well, although I will say this year
Was
it was
very-
bad, but last year was an outstanding year to cover high school football. There really weren't too many games that. I mean, the temperatures were pretty good and everything. So
Thank you so much to Tri-Central head coach Cam Hindman for joining us, to the Herald-Bulletin's Rob Hunt, who's been such a good friend to us, and to the Action Sports Network's Grant Schaus, who is becoming a good friend to us. Enjoyed talking to him tonight before he did his report. Michelle and Grant talked for seemed like 2 hours while I was doing my research for tonight's, getting all the stats and everything. They talked about IU sports for quite a while. So
we did. It's Grant and I understand that. It's really fun because I don't think you realize just how fun it is until you really have a football team that is
That's right.
become the national stage. I mean,
I remember as a Purdue fan, and what Purdue did wasn't even close to what IU's done. But those Purdue years, it was pretty fun.
Well, I look at here's how I look at it. I look at Coach Sig has come in and done for the IU program what Joe Tiller came in and did for the Purdue program. Because it had kind of fallen away. Joe Tiller came relevant. He gets a quarterback out of Texas named Drew Brees and ran an offense system that was perfect for him. And I think Sig has done that, and he's got a great staff. Tiller had a great staff at Purdue. So it's. That excitement is there.
Speaking of which, don't forget to watch the Illinois State Redbirds on Saturday in the national Sweet 16 round at UC Davis. Winkers Wright is going to star in that game. I hope he's able to play. He got hurt at the end of their win last week over Missouri State. But he says he's going to play. He's sometimes a little tougher than he probably should be, but can't wait for that one. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Please go right now and like, subscribe, or follow us on whatever podcasting platform you prefer, and tell a friend. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media.
And Greg loves Susie, and so do I.
Everybody loves Susie.